I was talking to a couple people in real life, and then just scanning the internet, and it seems like the new Jim Caviezel film, The Sound of Freedom, seems to be really permeating beyond the online sphere. It's kind of getting everywhere, and like the kind of consensus thing is, because obviously you don't want to go as far as to say like I'm anti talking about child trafficking. You never want to say that in public. Like that's still so taboo. These libs have more self-awareness than that, I think. But a lot of times they say like, yeah, it just seems kind of weird to just focus on like one aspect of it,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just one aspect of it. And Caviezel's linked with Mel Gibson, of course, for Passion of the Christ, and they're still buddies to this day. And it's covering kind of more of a QAnon-ish type true story, apparently. But the some people say, well, like, what about the well, Mel should take a look at it, care about at home, like the Catholic Church. Why not cover the Catholic Church? It's like, dude, there's like 90 movies about the Catholic Church pedophilia. Like it's just like they're everywhere. Like you got the Spotlight, won an Oscar. Like, I was just like you want him to break ground and make the first Catholic pedophilia movie? It's like, no, it happens all the time. Like I don't know.
I like how there's different teams, dude. It's so crazy. Yeah.
It sucks to be like I'm the number one anti-child trafficking guy, but this movie just reeks. This movie just reeks, dude. Like it's just
the ultimate. What it is it's the ultimate test of, if you listen, our whole thing is like, if just people that are so allergic to anything even remotely breaching like a non orthodox thought of whatever that is, and people are just like, it even breached into the child abuse thing. Like you have to somehow spin it to like a pro child abuse take to avoid being contaminated by the bad people or something, which is insane. It's like, I gotta say, it was really disheartening for me. I was like, I'm not really into this like culture war shit. I try to avoid it, but even then, just seeing these takes, like that some of the stuff you sent me, I'm like, yo, man, it is like, we're dividing lines up on this now, on a true story, even if it wasn't, that's the crazy part about it.
Well, it's like, I always bring up the OSHA laminated rules, workplace rules. Like it's like they have their own rules. Like the libs are like, if you want to talk about pedophilia, here's the order of operations, how you do it. The church,
it's like, okay, multiply the inside the parentheses first, and then it's like a math equation. That's order.
It's like you did PEMDAS, you didn't do PEMDAS. Exactly. No,
PEDMOS.
PEDMOS. Yeah, exactly. Mospetos, like fucking
real math heads.
Fucking live Moss, PEDMOS. But
from the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by the visit Glen Rock, need crypto told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. Who you with?
No, I think it's hilarious to see to see people do that, like where it's just like, why? Remember when everybody was just against this and it didn't matter? Like when everybody was just like, hey, you probably shouldn't like traffic kids, and like
I think the Hollywood thing is part of it, because everyone knows that there's that's how shit is run there. There's definitely an undercurrent of evil going on there. Not saying it's probably not most. I'm not one of those guys. They're all fucking, but there is like an element to that, but that's a huge establishment, institution, right? That runs like their thought leaders. You can't deny it. They determine what people think, right?
Yeah.
In terms of just like what's culturally appropriate to talk about in movies and films and shows and stuff, streaming. So yeah, it's a weird schism. I feel it's like, and it'll probably only continue to get exposed more. I feel, I don't know. It's weird.
I guess. Yeah. And also just the fact that like, I could see some kind of people like how long has it been going on for, right? The Hollywood pedophilia thing, like probably a lot longer than even the kind of schizo documentaries we've all watched. Like it's probably been going on longer than that, safe to say.
For sure.
But like, do you think maybe the decline in just product has like exposed it a little bit? Like, and like, kind of, I don't mean to make light of it, but it does seem like kind of a fun where it's just like, man, these movies suck anymore, and we're doing the child trafficking. Can you imagine the guy loading the crates of the kids in the Wayfair cabinets? Like, he's just like, dude, what is this even for? Like another Captain America? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like hey, we used to be a country, damn it.
We used to. He's like, Rosemary's Baby. I was down.
Yeah,
this is fucking sick. Like
the juice was worth. It used to be worth the squeeze. Dude.
Yeah, I was down to crack the eggs to make the omelet. You know, like.
That's such an RC take, dude. That's such an RC.
Wait till we find the working class man in all this, the innocent worker in all. Just a guy in a high visibility vest with a cigar out of his mouth. Like, this is bullshit. Yeah. So to introduce our guests here, he goes by the name Organized Meat. That's his Twitter name. I have no idea what he wants to go by. Is that what you want to go by?
Organized Meat. Eric is fine too.
Eric?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because calling another guy meat, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't mind. I think I've revealed my name a few times on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just Googled Eric and I found you. So I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But I found where you stay at and everything. No, it's a very generic name. So you're good. You're good. Yeah.
That's it.
yeah, you're good. So one thing about you is like I swear to God, dude, you listened to, I think you might have been like listener number 3 of our show. Like number 3. Like from the old, like when I was kind of thinking like, damn, dude, we might just be going to like the OnlyFans bots might be the only people listening to us right now. Like the SoundCloud bot farmer type people reposting us, submit your track for promotion and all that stuff. But you were there, but like you gave us like the best advice, and I don't think you even thought of it as advice ever. But there was one time where we, during the height of COVID hysteria and all this thing, like we were kind of compelled to cover that from like a current event standpoint. But I remember one time it was you and then another guy named Montgomery Carlo, who's also a longtime listener, good guy as well. You guys both had said within like the same period of time where you guys were just like, hey, like love the coverage of all that stuff. The coolest thing is when you guys just talk about shit you like. That's like the best part about the show. And then I was like, wow, that's crazy that like there's people that actually want to hear the what's on your mind kind of thing rather than the docket, the newsletter of docket. This is what we're talking about today. And it's just, it was a long time ago that happened, but it definitely had a huge impact on kind of just knowing that people wanted to actually hear the stuff that we thought was so good. Yeah.
We have no fear to just fire off a solo episode. It's like now we're like excited, to do that.
I mean, that's honestly, that's the best. Like when the last episode you guys released, oh man, it just like had me dying because it was just you two. Like I love it when you two just like start talking about shit and like I know that like you guys known each other forever. So it's like you just have that rhythm and it's so funny. And that's like the best part. And especially like during COVID, when you got into politics, it was like, okay, here's finally some people that have been saying out loud what I've been saying to myself or what I've been noticing myself and weren't afraid to say it. And also just like tried to like, hey, calm me down and just like, hey, chill. Like, yeah, you're right. Everyone's noticing it too. Don't worry. Just try to like do other shit, concentrate on movies and, like read a little bit, like, and that's where you're headed now, which is like more like the men's health thing. Like I dig that angle. Yeah.
Men's health,
just improve yourself.
Men's health. Yeah. Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. And then like you realize what else is going on that you physically can chart your progression. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people that set this huge, like, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to stop child trafficking. I'm going to do all these things. And then you're going to like, but then you fail, right? Because it's, I'm not saying give up, like you still have that take, but like you fail and then you're like, I'm just going to be a scumbag then, like, cause I can't stop this huge machine from firing on all cylinders. Therefore, what's the point of anything? And that's the state I don't want anybody in. So it's like, you gotta, it's just, it's an order of operations, PEDMOS, you gotta do that. So, but I don't want to chalk you up as just a podcast listener guy. I don't want to, because you're not, like, you're well read, like you've read a lot of books, like you like, I mean, I swear to God, I think you've read half the shit I've already like just started cracking into, but you don't strike me as an academic, right? Or are you? I don't know. Who are you?
Well, I mean, I've read a lot because I am an English major, got my master's degree in English. So I read a lot in college. And since high school, just been interested in reading. I had a friend that kind of turned me on to like Thomas Pynchon and Don DeLillo really early. And like that sort of writing like really drew me in. And then also like Kurt Vonnegut and Philip Roth were like really like they're just so funny and very different, but like Kurt Vonnegut was funny and he had like these weird like sci-fi tales that were sort of like, especially Harrison Bergeron, his short story. Like that was just like, oh, like that shit's like kind of true. Even in the 90s when I read it, like that was true. So it was like that and Philip Roth, just like Portnoy's Complaint, just kind of neurotic people going throughout the world. Like that just really interested me. So I tend to like, who are my authors inspired by? And that always led back to like, like Kafka and Nabokov. And like, so I just read those and I just read based on what people I read, like who they liked.
Excellent. I mean, that's all it is. It's just like, and you have your master's degree in English. I'm over here saying you're not an academic. You're like an academic, but you don't come off as one. That's what's cool. Like you're not just one of those like, you don't like. There's people that just speak in that academic term where I just feel like it's our first contact with an alien when I talk to them, and I'm just like, look, man, that's not the way. I don't know. I just don't find that. I appreciate that exists in the world, that there's people I can go to, but I love that people that just actually try to be accessible to the guy that's working on the construction site like me. I like when people extend that like, ladder out from the helicopter, like, hey man, you guys can come up with us, like I like when people are like that. And I've spoken to you a couple times just on like spaces and things like that. I'm like, no, this is one of us. This is one of our guys, so that's good.
Yeah. No, I the whole academic thing. It's just all kind of bullshit. So I never really like stress that. It's like I have no like real credential in anything more than anyone else who's like read something. What they give you a degree for is agreeing with the professors that teach you, and that's kind of what it is. Like in most institutions. Like they're all like, liberal run. So, I mean, I'm glad I was able to do that reading, but at the same time, it's like, I could have just done that by myself. I remember one of the episodes, like recent ones, maybe it was the last one. You said like, like, oh, fuck, like I hate that. Like, I regret the fact that I even went for a college degree. Like it was like I was like wasting my time, and like I sort of feel that way. Like I'm grateful for it, but at the same time, it's like I could have just been doing other stuff to pursue what I actually wanted to do, and no.
Yeah, you know what you should have done? You know what you should have done is you should have gone to college, had no idea what you wanted to do. You should have flunked out. You should have worked at cannabis clubs, other dead end burnout jobs. You should have done that all throughout your 20s. You should have had an existential crisis towards the end of your 20s. Then you should have started a podcast in your late 20s. And then after that, you should have that to me way more sustainable lineage. I think way more sustainable backbone. No, I'm dead.
I mean, better advice than probably what my parents gave me. Yeah. Even though not blaming my parents, like our parents only knew like, oh, you got to tell your kids to do this shit, like but no, like, hey, like get some work experience, live life, actually go out there and figure out what you like and what you want, and then do that. rather
Yeah.
than just like, yeah, go to college. Yeah, like I don't know. You just have to do that. That's what you got to do. Yeah.
It would be sick if there were like just two, like an A and a B form of college where it was like, okay, I want to be a doctor, therefore I'm gonna right after high school I'm gonna start that program. I mean, I wish you wouldn't because it's a doctor, but you know, other than that, like there's or whatever. I want to be an engineer, therefore I'm gonna go straight in. I know exactly what I want to do. Let's get that done as fast as possible. But if someone like me who really didn't know what they wanted to do, but knew they didn't mind, you know, working and things like that, it would be cool to have like a 4-year work experience program that like then like you like then it was just more like normalized that like college at 24, you know, like where you're just like, I know you can do that, but it would be cool if you were on like this thing. It's like, hey, 4 years, bounce around the workforce, see what you like, you know, and then maybe, hey, maybe you realize I want to get into this kind of thing. But it's like, no, it's everybody's got to go out at 18 and then go straight to college and just dilly dally around for 4 years, maybe even 7, rack up some debt, you know, don't worry, it's fake, you know, just all that. It just seems like such a stupid system that we have. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. You know, I went through it. Don't recommend it for anyone. No.
Yeah,
Unless
exactly.
you want to be a doctor or a lawyer. Right?
Yeah, and if you want to be a doctor, just look. We have 200 and something episodes, dude. Listen to those, and then maybe I don't know, watch The Truth About Cancer. Find out some of those doctors. Study under them. You know, that's the way. That's what I would recommend. You probably won't make that much. You might make some money actually. Like if you worked for under Joe Mercola, you'd make some money. But guys like that, that's what I would say. We're gonna get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode. But we're here to talk about a couple of films. The only thing they have in common with each other is the word Brazil. But for some reason, they're fantastic. I love both of these movies for separate reasons. We're going to try our best to synthesize the two, but not really. They're just both great. The first one I'd like to talk about is from 1978. It's called The Boys from Brazil. I just rewatched it again today. Loved it even more a second time. I don't want to give away all of the movie or go through, Wikipedia plot summary here, but essentially centers around an old man played by Laurence Olivier who is alerted by his this like kind of smart, too big for his britches Jewish kid who's trying to take down all of Nazism and the remains of Nazism in South America, because it's well known that they're in South America. But Ezra, who is the old Nazi hunter guy, then decides to not only try to stop these guys, but like he wants to just find out what are they doing down there? It doesn't sound like just a typical mobilizing an army down there. It sounds like they're doing something way more crazy. And what ends up happening is that he finds out that Dr. Joseph Mengele has been basically trying to recreate Hitler. I think it's 95 times, 95 different Hitlers, but all going through the same childhood process. So then you have 95 Hitlers leading the Fourth Reich or whatever. And who knows what happens from there. But Sai, you watch this. I'd love to know your feeling about it.
Yeah, well, I love the genetic because obviously the Nazis were obsessed with genetic determinism, and we're scientifically we're anti-genetic determinist podcast in almost every facet. So I just find it's funny, like when especially in like the old like retro 70s films, when that's the concept of the thing, is that we could just predict, like the fact that you could create a new Hitler just through his DNA and by murdering his dad, kind of thing, which is hilarious. It's
hilarious, dude.
Yeah. And I just immediately made me think of like I'm a big fan of Rupert Sheldrake. I'm going to get a little off course here, but
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Would hate
But,
that if you did that.
Rupert Sheldrake was a scientist, geneticist, botanist, Terence McKenna's best friend, one of his best friends. And, he's famously had the TED Talk that was banned for talking about the 10 myths of science, what he deemed the 10 myths of science, and for writing a book called The Science Delusion, which is, he's writing this as a scientist, kind of clowning on the whole Richard Dawkins zeitgeist, right? And one of the things he jokes a lot about, we all learn in school, like Crick and Watson, Francis Crick and Watson, the scientists that supposedly discovered DNA or whatever, and how they discovered DNA, and then they were obsessed with heritability and behavior of animals and stuff and humans. And they were kind of like, yeah, we got it all figured out. You take this side of it, I'll take that side of it. And then in 10 years, we'll have it all figured out. And they were just so cocky with that they were going to solve everything just through genetic heritability. And of course, literally every piece of evidence from the Human Genome Project on has only disproven. And again, look, I'm not saying genetics aren't important, and that I'm not like one of those. I'm not like a maximalist or whatever. But just they were saying we were going to cure every disease. They were saying that we were going to have everything figured out, and it's just been endlessly more complex than that. Has borne out basically. So that's what made me think of this immediately with that. It was just the whole the central dogma of biology that that genes rule everything basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Genes rule everything around me.
Yeah.
Get the money. But it's amazing because a couple things about it I think are really cool are, for one, there's a really cool part of the 70s when you start getting into like real 70s conspiracy paranoid it's kind of noirish a little bit. There's a noir element just meandering from room to room, kind of going into where like guys, all the like having sex, the weird sex scenes and stuff where like people are hanging and stuff when they're creating the Hitler simulator, which I assume is similar to like the Michael Vick Experience commercial, where he's like, where you put on the thing and you run around like Michael Vick. They're just trying to create that experience for all these kids, like these that's crazy. But what's crazy about the 70s paranoid thing is that a lot of those directors were paranoid about the current climate, paranoid about the rapid innovation, and just adapting books that were written like a year prior. So there was definitely, whenever I see something like that happens, I tend to think that the director will be, I guess, more in lockstep with like the author or the idea that's being said. Because the book was written by Ira Levin, I want to say, and it was right before the movie. It's 2 years before the movie. You have movies like Marathon Man, also starring Laurence Olivier, which was written by William Goldman, which we covered on Gain of Fiction. It was within a year or two of each other. So it's nice to see those happen. But you also take these directors who are also students of what they do, big time film guys and everything, and they take these guys, these legends from the 30s, 40s, 50s, like Laurence Olivier, Gregory Peck, James Mason, you see it all around, and then thrusting them into that gritty, paranoid kind of vibe of these late 70s conspiracy movies, and they're so good, they're so polished, but like the content is so gritty that it's really cool to see those two styles mesh rather than this clean kind of epic 40s movie that they would normally be in, or 50s movie.
Like this movie was so cool in like just like its imagination, like you're trying to like reproduce Hitler's, and like the fact that Mengele wouldn't think like, okay, maybe down the line someone wouldn't think that all these identical people rising to power wouldn't, sounding like Hitler, maybe that might not be a problem. Like, it didn't matter. Like Gregory Peck was so cool as Mengele, and I was looking at some of the reviews for him, and it just was like, it was panned, but like his review, like his performance was panned by a lot of critics, and yeah, people were critical of him because I guess it was the first time they saw him playing a bad
Yeah,
guy.
what were the last names of the critics? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
yeah.
No, let's
Do a rough analysis.
Yeah. I mean, the book is written by a guy named Ira Levin, which is like you would put that in a AI Jewish name generator and it would come out. Like it's like I think it's fine if he plays him. Yeah.
Yeah, 99.9% Jewish.
Yeah.
Well, this happened recently with the whole what's that rabbit movie, the Jojo Rabbit. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
controversy?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
And it's like written by a Jewish dude, but still people freaked out. And it's like one of those, is it like, you know, people are like, is it cool? Can I check the box? They're doing the whole order of operations thing, you know, the book. Yeah. Where it's just like,
It was
I don't
made
know.
by a Polynesian guy or something.
Yeah. Are we doing that?
Is that like?
Yeah.
Is
Is that where they're
white?
is that where the Nazis are hiding now? Yeah.
Yeah.
L&L Hawaiian barbecue, fucking Nazi guys. But no, is that where they're hiding? But no, no, I think it's interesting too because you have the idea. I mean, I don't even know that this is coming through to a lot of people on there, but just the idea of just like time, right? I mean, the time aspect of all this is just essentially like, let's just recreate the same era. Like let's it's almost like going through a time machine, right? That's what like a lot of like genetic maximalists are doing, right? Is basically going through a time machine and just be like, we didn't get that right that time. Let's create this. And like I love when Ezra, the Laurence Olivier character, is just like picking the scientist brain with all the rabbits, and he's just like, what word? Like, fuck, this is crazy. And I love that. I love that scene. But you know, there's the idea of that like, hey man, we almost got away with it if it wasn't for these meddling kids, you know, and like we almost got away with this, but this time, like, yeah, because like that's the idea, is like we have like 95 Hitlers, like, but what, like, is Hitler down to be on a team? You know what I mean? Like, is Hitler down to be a team player? He's like, dude, there's 95 of me. He's like, nah, I'm the sickest one. You know, like, because then like Boys in Brazil 2 is like the Hitler gauntlet. Like, you know, if like like let's say they all get together, but then they're at college. Like, let's say baby Hitler gets into one of them gets into like Dartmouth or something. I don't know if that's allowed in the lineage, but let's just say it happens. And then he sees another guy and he's like, yo, he's got those blue contacts like me, dude. Those fucking bright blue contacts in there. Like, what's up? Like, he's got the same haircut. Like, I don't know about this guy, man. You know, like, he's got like just the same complexion as me. And like, yeah, they're gonna fight each other, man. Like, or at least like, I don't know. I can't imagine Hitler was down to like kind of like socialize Hitler. Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean,
I want to know what the Arizona State Hitler turned out like. You know, he's just like,
Rob Gronkowski.
Shorts with the tan, sunglasses.
Yeah, dude.
He's got a pet snake at home that he shows off to the ladies. Bringing back to
Joe Exotic Hitler. Yeah, just that would be so sick, man. Yeah. I think there's a lot you can do with that, but you know, it also started the debate now, and it's a very tired debate. You see it on the internet, and it's kind of like one of those hack philosophical questions now. But correct me if I'm wrong. This movie probably started the "Would you kill baby Hitler?" debate, right? I mean, like, because everybody, I will say this, like, I do want to know your guys' opinion on this, but I love the idea that like somebody's like, yeah, I would take a cinder block to a baby's head. Like, I would just fucking
put me in,
mash
coach.
It. Yeah, dude. Come on. I've been waiting on the word. You know, like I've just been, exactly. The John Fogerty center field starts playing, and you get put into the game. But you like, I would kill baby Hitler, but like for me, I would give baby Hitler Rishi from an early age.
Yes.
Get him on a course. Because look, let's be real, dude. Let's be real for a second. Sorry to some of our listeners that might have been critics of Gregory Peck's performance. But sorry to some of those guys. But like, let's be real. Like, for someone to be that evil, there's got to be some smarts there. You know what I mean? There's got to be something there. It's the same way. It's like remote viewing can be used by the CIA as like some evil shit. But like, it's
like Bill Gates. Like, Bill Gates is stupid. Like, no, he's not, dude. It's cope.
It's cope. It's super cope when like your absolute enemy and you're like, it's stupid. Yeah, they're stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, now that being said, the next movie that we'll get into, I think that their enemy is kind of stupid. But like, it's in this sense, you're like fighting a huge evil. I don't think you get rid of Hitlerism by killing Hitler. You know what I mean? I don't think that happens
Mm-hmm.
because there's always going to be an evil dictator or an evil just freak that comes out in that sense. But if from an early age, let's say you did, I'd be against the whole process, of course, of trying to make the next one. But dude, you alter that guy in a sense, like mentally, I would give him, I would probably just have Terrence McKenna lectures playing for Baby Hitler's Crib.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Your nurture vibe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Time Wave. Just listening to Time Wave.
You'd
in
call
his group.
up Dean, be like, "We got the best documentary premise for you, bro."
Don't freak out when I tell you who the baby is.
Yeah.
Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Just promise you're not gonna freak out. Yeah.
I mean, totally. Like, I think that's the whole point with, in the end when, Lieberman, like Laurence Olivier's character, he's like, he's the Nazi hunter, and the organization comes to him and they ask him like, hey, like, give us the name of these children because they're the next Hitler. Like, and, he knows they're going to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, like, you want to slaughter children. And it's just like, oh, wow. Even this guy who is so depraved, like he wants to like kill every single Nazi out there, but the genetic sons of Hitler, he's even willing to consider, hey, maybe there's a nurture over nature in this aspect.
100%.
And I mean, like, that was just like that really threw me off in the film when I watched it. I was like, oh wow. Like,
no,
I really thought they would have went the other way with this. Yeah.
Right. The last 25 minutes from basically the farmhouse with all the Doberman scene all the way to the end is, I would put that against any movie. I'd put that against any movie. The last 25 minutes of it. It's so 100%. Good. It's so good. Like when, you finally get the scene, like you're waiting all the time. It's like, when do I get to see Gregory Peck and Laurence Olivier in their older years square off? Like, when do I get that? Because it's
that's like De Niro and Pacino and Heat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's like
that's like exactly. Exactly. You get like you're talking Atticus Finch. All these great like legendary characters Gregory Peck played. You have Laurence Olivier a year or two earlier is playing the evil dentist Nazi Christian Zell in Marathon Man. Just before that, doing it amazing. It's crazy to play a Jew and a Nazi.
Who's Mengele? Like that character was supposed to be Mengele.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, dude, Laurence Olivier was just like, fine, if this is my last years of acting, I'll do it. Fuck it. I'll have the Nazi Jew arc playing. But but it's crazy. Like, when would you do that? People would freak out now if that happened. Like, more so than anything. Like if it was like, I don't know, Timothy Chalamet, right? Let's say Timothy Chalamet plays like, an insane like slave master in a movie. Right. Like he plays like an insane slave master. That's just like almost like DiCaprio, Django type character. They would be like, oh, first off, they'd have their own, that shouldn't be allowed, blah, blah, blah. But then like, what if Timothy Chalamet plays like a slave? That might be bad too for ultimate reasons. But like, let's just say Timothy Chalamet plays like a slave in that sense. Like it's just like people would freak out about going back to that. Like you're going, like you can't do that because people think movies are real. Yeah. So like they think like there was a thing about Matt Cini from Getting Lit Pod one time said like, because there's people freaking out about The Idol right now on HBO. And
he did that podcast.
He did that
episode about that. Yeah, it was great.
He's great. I don't even know if it was on the show yet because I haven't listened to that episode yet. But there was one like tweet he had said, and I think it was about it. It might not have even been about that, but also some fiction. Some like I think it was how women when they get bored, when they have like when women have like their off season, it's a slow off season for women, when they immediately go to Fight Club about how bad Fight Club is. And no, it's like clockwork every year. It's like, have you ever actually sat and watched Fight Club and what it's actually saying? They do that every year, but I think that was what it was. And but Matt had said like, dude, in the 19th century they banned women from like reading because they wouldn't be able to tell fiction versus nonfiction. And I'm not saying women. I think just libs. I think there's two genders now. There's libs and non-libs. So like libs shouldn't be allowed to watch movies or read books for like just till we figure out what's going on. Just till we figure out what's going on.
Just pause it until we can figure out what the heck is going on here.
Yeah, till we can figure out what's going on. But yeah, you have the the dope where Hitler's like rural trad cath Hitler is on his little farm, you know, with his Doberman. And there's that final scene, and I got it at first, but the second time watching it is like, it's kind of crazy from Lieberman's perspective. He's torn up on the couch, he's all messed up, and he's watching Mengele get eaten by Doberman at the command of baby Hitler. Like, and he's kind of just like, this guy's like not for it, but he's like, he's still got that dog in him. You know what I mean? Like, he's still, he's still got that dog in him. Like Hitler gonna Hitler. You know what I mean? But you might think like, okay, I might need that intensity on my side. If there's a Hitler, I need the counter Hitler. You know, like it's just, if my enemy has Hitler, I have to have a response. You know, so like, because in the 40s they kind of didn't, you know, until so it's just like I thought that was such an interesting dynamic of the movie.
But I did love that whole scene, because like, I mean, there was, so we you know, you're talking about like this, you know, nature versus nurture, but like the certain baby Hitler that was growing up in the family that had the Dobermans, you know, in the last scene. Like that father was like talking about like, hey, we don't have problems with Nazis here. We got problem with, you know, N-words.
Yeah.
And then,
by the way, did you see the cut to Gregory Peck's face, the edit where he just does a hard nod?
Oh yeah.
That's like, he's like, yep.
He's like, a hard agree.
Yeah. He's
okay,
like, so true.
That's number two. That's number two.
Yeah.
But
he's like, you're almost there. Warmer. Yeah.
And he was talking. So, yeah, he said that, and also, he.
Sorry, I threw you off with that one. I threw you off.
Yeah.
I had to call off. I had to call out that. This is my favorite edit. That should have won best editing that year. If it didn't, I just did the Oscars. But yeah, no, what you're getting at is like, you know, he's on his dad, baby Hitler's dad, who's like, I don't know what he is. He looks like Polish Catholic or something.
I remembered.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I remembered. He was talking about his son's like photographs of dogs. And you know, Gregory Peck was admiring them, and he was like, "Oh, these are beautiful. Like, you know, these Dobermans. Like, you know, your son takes these." And the father's like, "Yeah, a little gay or something, like a little faggy or something like that. You know, I don't know, like a little artsy. Like, you know, like I don't really like that shit." And that's just like how Hitler was raised. So it's like they sort of did plan for the type of family that Hitler was raised around, maybe to grow up to be Hitler. So when you go back to Laurence Olivier saying like, hey, you know, like nature over nurture, well, like the nurture they give them is like kind of how Hitler was nurtured. So that kind of throws that angle off a little bit, but I mean, I just find the whole thing like really interesting. I would guarantee you any actual like genetic maximalist, I think, would argue that nurture comes from, you know what I mean? Nature essentially is like, or nurture, excuse me, comes from like the genetic aspect, because they are searching for the dad. Like they were searching for the dad to give the baby to, right? So they would find a dad who's like, this guy's going to hate on his art. Like it's basically like you control the overall environment, and like you find like they're not going to give. They would never, even if he fit the exact height, weight, you know, age that he would die at, they would never give it to like a artsy fartsy dad that would just like be like, you know, it would have to be like a more conservative, like, what the hell's your problem? Put the camera away kind of thing. Like he would have to do that. Like I think they would argue that nurture ultimately comes from that. You know, like that you know, there's people that have a genetic answer for like every behavior, and I don't believe that, but I think your environment does in fact breed certain behaviors a lot of times, not all. I don't think it's an excuse for anything. I don't think it absolves you of any of accountability or anything, but I do think that, you know, if you are taking a certain range of outcomes, like, you know, 7 out of 10 times that Hitler anti-art thing, when you give him to that dad, he's gonna hate on the art, and Hitler's art sucked. I mean, it did. Like, that's the thing. Like, if I was Hitler trying to beat the bad art allegations, I would simply make good art. Like, I mean, they did it. I don't know. I've honestly, I think I know I've seen some paintings, but I can't honestly, I can't recall enough to make
They're
a
just mid. They're
decision
just
one way
mid,
or
dude.
the other.
Yeah, they're nothing. They're nothing.
Yeah.
They're just nothing.
They're just like average.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
have
not
you-
even bad. They're not even like bad. They're not even bad to the point where you could be like, wow, that's actually so bad that there's something there. You know, it's not that it's just like mid, like Office, like Inspire with like a mountain range, like kind of
Yeah,
like Michael Scott hanging in Michael Scott's office, which that would have been a great Office episode, by the way.
Yeah.
If that was if that-
Michael Scott buys the Hitler painting.
Yeah,
He's like,
I got it dirt cheap, you know, like it wasn't selling at this museum. But yeah, it was, but right, exactly. It's just super mid, like. But no, it's a great movie. It had been on my list for a while, and I knew you liked it, and I was like, man, have you read the novel?
No, I haven't. I want
No.
to. I haven't read any of Ira Levin's stuff. I want to read Rosemary's Baby. Want to read this one. And I know he did Sliver also, which was a great movie. The Sharon Stone one.
Sure.
Like, and I know it was like kind of a corny movie. It still is, but I think the novel can probably it's probably much better than the Sharon Stone exploitative movie. Like that movie was just made to like, hey, here's Sharon Stone being sexy, right? So
absolutely.
I don't think they probably didn't do justice to the novel.
All right.
By the way, if anyone wants, there's a real life kind of version of this thing. Vaguely, have you guys ever seen the documentary 3 Identical Strangers?
No.
It's a couple years old. I think it's in 2018. It's about, I'll just give a brief synopsis. It's like anyone, you guys would like it, and anyone listening might want to check it out. It was a trip, man. It tripped me the fuck out. It's about this guy that discovers he had basically an identical twin, right? That he had never met, that was raised in a totally different family. And then they discover that they were part of a set of triplets, and they were all adults by this point, but they're like, yo, what the fuck? They were like young adults, and they met. And it was actually a big media sensation, like, oh, these 3 triplets found each other. And it was like they were on like the Tonight Show and all this shit, right? But it turns out they were part of this experiment where they this adoption agency would send twins and triplets off to different sets of families and follow them throughout their life to quote unquote end the nature nurture debate. But it's so like unethical and gnarly, and they redacted all the data. It's fucked up. Like, I won't spoil it or anything, but it's you will be like, yo, what the fuck, man? It is creepy, dude. Yeah, it is a strange ass film. So yeah, that's real life too. Yeah, that's
exactly. No, it's that's great. I'm gonna have to check that out. But the next one that I want to talk about is the movie. It's just simply titled Brazil. And this was another one. I'm a Terry Gilliam. I'm a huge Terry Gilliam fan. I'm a big Monty Python fan. I've been fighting off the Monty Python haters all my life. My mom.
So have I.
Yeah. But I was alone. I was alone. It was like Call of Duty Zombies, with the zombies game where they all start coming through the room telling you Terry Gilliam's gay. Like and Monty Python sucks. But I had, embarrassingly enough, this was like the one of his big films that I hadn't seen. Embarrassingly enough, Fear and Loathing, of course, and I hadn't seen 12 Monkeys until we did the episode on it either. So his actual filmography, I hadn't been super into, or at least hadn't given it a chance, and I don't know why I hadn't, because he finds a way to take the Monty Python weird, corny aesthetic and just really, really touch on some complex, crazy ideas with them. And so the premise of this movie, I can totally see why people would, from the first scene of Jonathan Pryce's, I think it's Sam Lowell is his character's name, when he's flying with like angel wings, I can understand where people are like, what the fuck is this when they watch it? Like what is this? But if you're a Python head like me, you're just like, let's rock.
Yeah,
this is going to be
Terry
something.
Gilliam's doing.
So the concept of the movie, right, and like the plot of the movie is very good, but I don't know that matters at all. Like the actual plot of this movie, it's the obstacles that matter. Because I have not read Ayn Rand yet. I have not. Eric, have you read Ayn Rand?
I read Anthem and The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. Yeah. Okay,
so you've read. Is this a Randian story, would you say? Brazil, like just with the bureaucratic element to it?
Philosophically, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's cool. So the whole concept is this Sam Lowell guy. He's like dreaming about this girl, and he's working in this cold. Terry Gilliam was so wrong how everything is cold and gray aesthetically now, just so wrong. Crazy. And now the one thing and I love, but he's going through these constant bureaucratic loops. He works. He's a bureaucrat. He works very much. You really only can work for that, or else you're just kind of this like rebel, or you're suffering from it. Essentially, you either work for the machine or you're suffering from it. It's like this giant, like it almost looked like Gotham to me a little bit from the '90s Batman cartoons. Kind of a lot of the buildings, but the idea is that he's just really just like wants to find this girl like the whole time, because she just kind of just is something different, and she has longer hair in the dreams than she does in real life, and just looks more, he has this idea of who she is, but then occasionally catches glimpses of her throughout there. But it just, the concept is it's just a bureaucratic nightmare. Everything he wants to go to. I mean, let's just say this. It just shows constant scenes of people saying like, I want to file a complaint here. And they're like, well, actually that department's over there. And they're like, I just came from that department. Can I do this here? And spot the lie, dude. That is literally what happens every single time. When there was a point A to point B solution 10 years ago, we've added points, the final letter is Z now, like to where we have to get through to get to literally for Comcast Xfinity customer service. You know what I mean? For like to make sure that my Wi-Fi works. Like the shit is insane. Like, and I love the imagery of this, because you have like, even in his dreams, he's just point A to point B. I'm gonna go fly to this girl in the sky, and then these like big pillars pop up that he has to go around, and he's just going through that in real life. But it's not, the fantasy element is what everybody thinks has to happen for someone to spot a problem. Like, wow, that pillar got in the way of that angel, something's wrong. But really, it's like, no, it's all these stupid pipes that are just these bureaucratic, dumb city project pipes that are coming through these fancy restaurants, and these wires, these loose wires everywhere. Like, just all this stuff that just creates fake jobs for people, that just makes life harder for the regular person.
Yeah, just also dumb mistakes that cause problems for people. Bureaucratic nightmares. Yeah, I remember one time I was at the DMV like a couple of years ago, and I know like DMV, it's like always lame, but this was like I was trying to get my my Nevada driver's license, and California one had expired at the time. This was like around COVID. And they just like had shut everything down. You didn't need a valid license for anything, pretty much. Like they didn't care. And when I went back to get my real ID, they were like, okay, you need a birth certificate. And they gave me the place to apply for a birth certificate. Well, birth certificate place said like, hey, like scan your driver's license, and like, we'll let you know. And I scanned it, and they're like, well, it's expired, so you can't get your birth certificate. Well, I need that to get my ID. And it was this huge thing where I had to eventually figure out you had to get it through the Department of Health. And it was crazy. Like the bureaucracy in it drove me crazy. And I mean, I don't think I could have really like survived it unless like, the whole like, well, the COVID excuse existed for a little bit, right?
Right. Yeah. But now California's doing this thing where you need a real California ID, and it's like then you look at it and it's just vertical instead of horizontal. You're like, sick.
Like I'm
it's got a barcode.
Yeah.
It's got a barcode on the back that they scan if you want to buy any alcohol or tobacco products.
Very
like,
cool.
they can. Yeah, that's
put me in a database.
So cool.
Put me in a database to buy this fucking to buy this IPA, please. Thank you. Yeah. Put me on a list. And the crazy there is a character in this film that Terry Gilliam loves to put a very RC rare candy coded character in pretty much all of his films. And in this film, in 12 Monkeys, you had the Brad Pitt character, kind of schizo, sees the world a different way guy. Robert De Niro's character who you don't know exists yet because there is a clerical error at the beginning that it happens. There's so many employees, but there's still all these clerical errors where they say this guy Buttle, or last name is Tuttle or Buttle, one of the two. Tuttle and Buttle get confused, the name, and they like arrest the wrong guy for like this very minor infraction, and they bust into the guy's house during like Christmas and like take him away from his family and everything for it. But the Robert De Niro character is who they want. Robert De Niro's character is then called upon because there is like a bad AC unit or something in Sam Lowell's house, and Robert De Niro's character comes in with the pistol, like he's crazy, he's like ready to rock, but he comes into the pistol, and then he opens up this wall, and there's all these like excess wires and like really, really stressful looking cables. It's like the whole movie looks really stressful, cartoonishly, Pee-wee's Playhouse level stress of like all these moving parts. And he, all of a sudden he's like, okay, all I got to do is just bypass this. He's like, I can't replace that because it's obviously like this weird city part that has like a tracking device on it. He's like, I could just bypass it. Right, which is another metaphor, right? You could just bypass all this bullshit if you want to, and he just puts in this little part, boom, and then like everything's working all well again. Well, then the real company shows up, and they're the city company, and they're like, you didn't fill out a H-stroke, B-stroke, Z-stroke form, and they're freaking out. There's 2 people instead of 1, which is another subtlety there, where it's like actually we sent 2 guys to do a job that 1 guy could have done easily. 1 smart, competent person could have done. And then there's like a singing woman that comes in. All this like dumb stuff happens. But the Robert De Niro character injected into my veins. I mean, I love his character so much. And he's billed as a superhero. He always goes away heroically like a superhero on like a zip line and stuff, which I love. I love the comedy of it. And that's the Monty Python aspect, is like the guy that just does the simplest task and doesn't put you through the ringer of all these dumb things. He's a superhero.
Yeah, it's also a shock seeing him in a role like that. It's kind of refreshing. It's like a splash of cool water on the face. You're like, oh, I like this.
Yeah,
I like this. You know, it's like, yeah, he's great. Yeah,
he's
not
awesome.
Overutilized. You know, he's not over. Yeah, it's
no
like a real light touch.
Yeah. And you know, and then on the flip side, conversely, you have the foil character to the Robert De Niro. You have the blue-pilled Michael Palin of Monty Python fame, where he's working in the office. He's got his kid playing in the office. That's like the whole child care, like your kids play here type thing. Like everything happens at work. But then he's just like mysteriously covered in blood a lot of times. They're like, why is this guy have like blood all over his hands? But he's bought into the whole thing. And Michael Palin, I mean, if you haven't watched the old Monty Python, he is like just like that total, like just like caffeinated, like oblivious person in so many like Monty Python skits. So he does it so well. And he's just the perfect guy to succeed in it, to just not even fail upward, but just do nothing, essentially, and just go upward and upward and upward. And I love how the offices have that table that like they pull one side of the table and the other office gets like more of the table and stuff. I love just the stunts of all the rooms. But Michael Palin is so funny in that, where he's just like, it's just that's the guy that succeeds, right? And that's when we're talking about in that call. If you guys aren't on the Substack, rarecandy.substack.com, our last episode on there, on the premium feed, we were talking about like the person that does well in college, like really well, is just the person that just doesn't even stop and think about this is stupid. They go, this is life, therefore this is how I succeed in life. And then there's merit to that, right? Like there's merit. I can't fault people for doing that. Like it's not Michael Palin's fault. Yeah. In this day, like you're not like Michael Palin's the villain. He's not. Like that's the thing. He's just like that dude is straight up succeeding.
Cog. Yeah,
he's a cog. It's exactly what it is. And this movie was meant. I should talk about what this movie was, because just like the Island of Dr. Moreau, like it just seemed like, which is next this weekend coming up on Gain of Fiction.
I can't wait for that.
There is that. It's very funny that when people adapt a certain story and like the things in the story become the obstacles in making the movie itself, which Dr. Moreau, there were all these things that happened on the island, like all these seemed like a movie that was never meant to be made. But like Brazil, Terry Gilliam had to go through a straight up Hollywood bureaucratic nightmare to even make this movie. And there is an alternate cut that's an hour and a half where it ends, where he just falls in love with the girl and they're on a farm and that's it.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like a TV cut or something. It's TV crazy. Cut. Yeah.
It's crazy. And the Hollywood executives, like, it's funny because, you can make like a Hollywood. Eric, you were just on Drunk on Movies talking about Tootsie, right? Like there was Tootsie they love those type of movies where it's like, hee, this is funny behind the camera. This happens. Ha. Like so funny how everyone gets to see the, inside studio. Network is the same way of a movie. Same kind of way. But I think a lot of times Hollywood execs don't want to talk about like the actual bureaucratic nightmare of Hollywood. Like I think they might be a little quick because like people would walk out of the screen because he was coming off of a movie. Gilliam was coming off of a movie called Time Bandits. That was I haven't seen, but it's like a kind of a jolly, funny comedy starring Sean Connery, and it did really well in theaters. So what the Hollywood did is they blindly bankrolled. There were guys like executives. They were like, I just saw that idea and just said, well, that's the guy that did Time Bandits. Therefore, I will fund his next movie. So they all watched it and they were like, yeah, this is funny, but no one's gonna get it. And so then he had to go through all these hoops. They wanted certain edits done. And I know that happens with a lot of movies, but like Gilliam is a type A alpha. Like he's just like, no, it's not going to happen. Like I'm going to put out my cut. Like it's going to be my cut. But it is funny that he had to go through all that stuff in this movie, basically to make it like to make his bureaucratic nightmare movie, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, no. Like it reminded me, like the whole film like reminded me of like kind of like, it was very like, it's Kafka, it reminded me of Kafka's The Trial.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've read that book.
I plan to, but no, I haven't.
Is that on the list?
No, but I have a copy, so anything on my bookshelf's going to get done. So yeah, that's just the way
Yeah. Well, The Trial. I mean, I know the plot of it. Basically this guy's on trial, and they're like, "What?" He's like, "What for?" And they're like, "We can't tell you." And it's just like, bro, what the fuck, Kafka.
Pretty much him like navigating through this whole system, trying to find out what he's on trial for. And they made a movie out of it that was directed by Orson Welles.
Right.
Anthony Perkins was in it, Jean Moreau. It was a really good movie too. But yeah, this movie just like really synthesized that like kind of bureaucratic behavior, which I know it was supposed to be a response to the Margaret Thatcher era of England, which I don't know too much about.
Right.
I know she was conservative. I don't think she liked bureaucracy much.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she would have liked this film, I guess. But at the same time, I feel that this film was made in a response to like some sort of dystopia that she had created. And
sure.
I mean, I don't know. I maybe our British friends could enlighten us. Yeah.
I actually don't. No, I'm kidding.
But,
wall of text the next day. Actually, it ain't real Thatcherism. Yeah.
Real Thatcherism has never been tried.
Yeah, right, exactly. But no, you're right, and there's because you can in the same way we talked about the Hitler, like you can have the Hitler and like angle him towards a certain way to be like, hopefully it stays this way for a long time, similar to like a Dr. Moreau. Hopefully this guy acts like this thing for a long time, because you can say that. You can be like, oh man, like, but it is like, I'm sorry, Terry Gilliam's the one American guy in Monty Python, so I'm kind of like, look, I understand he probably has a ear to the streets on British politics, of course, but at the end of the day, it's like, dude, this has to be more of like an American overinflated bureaucracy movie. And like you said, Thatcher is a conservative. I don't know what a conservative in Britain is. I don't know what that is, but there's British people just slamming scones on the floor right now, dude. Listening to this. just fucking fuck, like and but but no, it's one of these things where like it's clear that at the end, the character thinks he's won, right? Which that's how the TV cut's supposed to be, is where he wins. He goes to the farm, and he's far away. It's not crowded. It's not jam packed. It's not this cold neoliberal gray Menlo Park looking place. Like it's not that. It's this farm, but then he's zapped back into his like insane, that really like harrowing place, and then his own buddy is basically like lobotomizing him in the sense to basically become him, right? And it's like that's what happens. But like I see so much of, I'm going to choose to see this as predictive, you know what I mean? Because he wanted to call this 1984 and a half. Terry Gilliam wanted to call this movie that, and
Really?
and it was going to be an ode to two films. It was going to be an ode to Fellini's 8.5, and of course George Orwell's 1984. So he wanted to basically combine that, and he wrote it years and years before. It just took so long to make, but he wanted to call it that. And like, yeah, look, ask anybody with politics what 1984 is. Ask anybody, and you will get so many different answers.
Oh yeah.
You'll if you ask the most blue-pilled lib of all time, 1984 is conservative Christians saying you can't get an abortion.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what that is. If you ask an RC listener, it's you got to take this shot. We have contact tracing. We have all this stuff. Like, no, you may not collect rainwater. Here's some fluoride. Like, there's a lot of if you ask any of us, like that's different. So like I get when like Terry Gilliam is he kind of shit on John Cleese a little bit in I think around Brexit time, which I still don't know what Brexit is. But hand up. I thought it was a new English term for breakfast, but it was this way. Yeah. I was like, is that on the Jack in the Box munchie meal here or something? Yeah. And I thought it was that, but like John Cleese was pro Brexit, nearly had this Nick Harry Potter, you know what I mean? Legendary actor. He was pro Brexit, and Terry Gilliam's like, John's off his rocker. That's my boy, but he's an idiot. You know what I mean? Like he said that, but then also Terry Gilliam goes in 2022 says about Dave Chappelle, he stands by Dave Chappelle when Dave Chappelle was getting all the tranny backlash at Netflix and stuff. He said, look, like I'm just going to identify as a black woman now. Then that's like what he said. And he's just like, I stand by Dave Chappelle. And then he got his movie that he was working on, just completely all the funding pulled from it. So like, it's just, look, whatever this movie means, any listener of this show that, like, I mean, even if you don't agree with us fully, I'm pretty sure you're going to see it as how we see it. Like, it's just trying to do anything in life. And I live in probably the most bureaucratic state of the union. You know what I mean? Like it's I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I only know one state. So I live in the coolest state too. You know, that's the other thing. It's a cool state, but you know, it's run in a sense that like we've reached a point where like there's so much private company overreach, and then there's so much bureaucratic nonsense that happens. You kind of don't know who to be mad at. That's where we've at. It's been muddled so much, because even when I watched Brazil, you still knew who to get mad at. Like you knew who was doing it because it was all a government thing. Right. And that's always been the kind of people that think like China's based on Twitter and stuff.
Oh, God.
Yeah. God bless them. God
horrible.
Bless their heart.
Yeah.
God bless their heart. But like, you know, those people, I'm not going to name names, but there's those people that are like, actually, it's free speech. You don't need it. You know, like there's those guys. But they think that one thing I heard a guy say, I almost threw my scone on the floor when I heard it, but it was, he said, this guy said, actually, in China, when something is done wrong to you, you know exactly who to look at. And that's why it's cool that everything's centralized over there. And I'm just like, that sucks, because then it's still something went wrong with you. And also maybe that thing's so powerful that they can just cut off all the supplies to your house and starve you to death. And then by the time the guy flips down his welding mask and is welding your door shut, you know, to not go outside. But like, I will say, I do understand in a sense that like, I don't know if when a utility goes bad out here, like it's a nightmare to find out who's responsible for the utility that going bad. Where it's like, let's say there's a street light out at a very big intersection, and it's flashing, and there's been accidents and stuff in an expressway. It's like, okay, the city runs the street lights, right? They're the ones that switch them, turn them on and off. However, a private company owns the electricity that powers the street lights. and then blah 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 blah. So then we have this like mixture of private and bureaucracy that I don't think anybody like Gilliam or anybody could see. Like it's truly emerging, but it's still separate in a sense to where there's plausible deniability about any authoritarianism, where it's like,
But
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but you really should, like, you pay taxes, so those street lights should be taken care of. That's the bottom line. And
100%.
I think if you pay taxes, shit should be taken care of, and you should be able to complain like a normal citizen and get a response. But I don't know, like, that's what, I'm against taxation, so
Taxation is theft.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So I think it would just be better if private companies took care of these things. But
yeah, so okay,
let's you have the whole capitalism argument.
Let's get into that, because I go back and forth. Truly, I go back and forth on it. I'm like, yeah, private company, hell yeah, like I'm down with that. But like I live in an area where PG&E runs everything. Like PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, right? They have like it's still the same thing as a bureaucratic nightmare. You know what I mean? And you pay a power bill, right, in the same way that you would pay taxes. But it's like I just don't notice that much of a difference. That's my only thing. And it's, again, I'm not advocating. I just prefer non-monopolies. Like, so I don't really care. But the problem is like I just don't. I think we're getting into like, maybe does a monopoly always happen though? That's what I wonder. Like, is that just the end result of this all the time? Is that because there's always going to be the one person, there's always going to be the one company that kind of plays a little dirty and just accumulates all the power, buys out the other company, and then at the end of the day, you're looking at like a Walmart, but of something that keeps your lights on. And I do wonder that. I just do wonder. Does that always happen?
Maybe, but I mean, that's why you have to keep a good government regulated with, what the people want. So, I mean, I think with what you're talking about, as far as like, private institutions controlling like power or something, I mean, I think that would be fine. I don't think a monopoly would always win out. I mean, that's the problem with what we have now, is the monopoly. And I mean, that's what we should really end, is because, like, yeah, you move, like, especially it's also with cable too. Like, I remember this was like 10 years ago or so when cable was a little bit more relevant, but I tried to get a cable company, and it was like, well, yeah, only Comcast or Cox or whatever.
Yeah.
California. And it's just like, well, I don't want that. Oh, well, no, there's free choice. You can have Dish or whatever. And like, well, I don't want a Dish. What if I want a cable company? Well, no, there's only one. And that was a monopoly, because why? Because there were other providers that used a different means. And I don't know. I thought that was kind of an odd way to get out of it, but I mean, at the same time, like, I don't know. It is a private company, and if they're doing the best job, and as long as there is someone that is allowed to compete against them, that's fine. Like, I don't like monopolies that are, non-compete.
Yeah, you have to have. I like the meritocracy element of it. I would, if I was guaranteed that aspect of it, I absolutely would. If I could be, because I love it in a sense, like, because like, dude, let's say I want to get off Comcast, right? Like, I want to get off Comcast because I do. I hate it. I seriously hate it. So when I'm talking to Steve, which I'm sure the guy's name is Steve for sure that I'm talking to, when I'm talking to him, he's like, I'm like, okay, well, I got charged this much. Sorry, your introductory package or whatever expired, and it went up like $100. And I go, well, okay, well, I'm switching to this one. And then he'll be like, cool, I'm sorry we lost your service. Is there anything we can do to keep you? No, absolutely not. Fuck you. I'm gonna burn down Comcast headquarters. Like, absolutely. Like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. He'll be like, great. So to cancel your service, here's what we have to do. And it would become Brazil. Like, have you ever tried to cancel anything nowadays? Like, it
Oh
is
my God.
insane
Yeah.
to try to just be like, but here's the thing, dude. I got people that's unsubscribed to our Substack. It's the easiest thing in the fucking world. Why can't that
Yeah.
be the bureaucratic nightmare? Like, why can't I create, but like, actually, oh, you want to not pay us $5 a month? God, I would love for it to just be all these cables start coming out that they have to plug in and all these like weird things they can't bypass. No, that's easy. However, if I want to opt out of the Funimation trial that I got for Agitator to watch some anime one time, if I want to opt out of that, Lord. I mean, it's like I got to remember the password to get into the account of the thing.
No, that's the new bureaucracy.
Yeah, it
the
is.
new bureaucracy
that's what it
is remembering your fucking password to everything.
100%.
And I know people are like, oh, use LastPass or whatever fucking password remembrance thing. Like, no, it doesn't work because you end up not remembering that password. It doesn't
you
work.
forgot your last
None
password.
of that shit works. Okay. Trust me. Yeah, it doesn't work.
And the autocomplete for the Chrome or Brave browser, the autocomplete, it remembers it for another fucking site or something. Dude.
Yeah. Or your update on Google Chrome didn't remember the password. Like for some reason, they're like, he's in this update, he's not going to want to log into the site that he goes to every day. So that's not going to happen. And then like the use strong password where it's ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. You're like, I'm not going to pick that. I'm not. I wish somebody would go into Navient student loan and hack it and pay it for me. Like, I don't want a strong password for that. Like, so that's the issue. And then we have like an app-based like bureaucracy that is through private companies now, which is insane because like, look, these are from private companies, but we have to grant them surveillance into our lives too. Like, let's say I don't like these things, but like, let's say I want to use the health tracker thing, like a health tracker thing. It's like, all right, track my location, or it's like something, track my location. And every app wants to do this, but these aren't government apps. However, they can sell it. They can sell your information. Like, and that's where it is. Like, I do think you would need still strong government law, like you said, to regulate those private companies. Cause it's like, dude, why do I have to sell out why do I have to sell out my information for everything or go like flip phone mode? You know what I mean? Flip mode squad, but flip phone stuff. Like, why is that the two options? Like, it's just ridiculous. And if I do go flip phone, like, guess what, man? I can't play Wordle. You know what I mean? And that's like what the family thing, like, then your family's like, oh, you don't want to like hang out with the family anymore. Like, you don't want to do Wordle with your grandma, like, just like, it's like this really crazy thing where it's like, you have to you can't opt out to it. Like, it's like this rebellion thing where you can, but it's like nobody else goes with you. They're like, no, man, this is chill. Like, this is so chill what we do now with all these apps. I just don't, this movie really got my wheels turning, and then the plastic surgery, the only like the all the women getting the black hole sun video, plastic surgery, like that, dude. Like, this movie's aesthetic to it is like so influential to a lot of things. I feel like just in general, like I would imagine like, even some people like Tim Burton, even like Tim Burton movies kind of moved in more in that direction of like the kind of like things like that. But like the plastic surgery thing where like the guy's mom, and like when they order the food, right, there's that weird thing where like these women are covered in bandages and he orders the food, and this is like insane where he has to point at the picture that he wants, and he's like, say the number, and he's like, can I just have the steak? And he's like, say the number. He's like, I want the steak. He's like, fine, the number 6. And it comes out and it's just like a sample of like what a steak would taste like. Like, that shit is crazy to me. Like, that shit, like, because it's boring. That's the thing. Like, all these things are so boring. And like, that's how these things get into place and how people just go in with them is there's minor rewards, minor conveniences, less movement that you have to do. And it happens so slow over time that you forget what life used to be like. Like that. It's like if you do the crazy Orwell, Bradbury type dystopian stuff, like I do think some people will be like, wait, don't do that. But when it happens in this slow, methodical process where guys get jobs and move up in the companies, and like, well, I'm a programmer here. This is great. So I don't know what you're talking about. Like when there's these small, minor rewards where you can order food from your couch on an app where your fingerprint is your password, so you'll never forget it. And all these things, people tend to go along with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's about reducing people down to numbers rather than actual individuals, like, so I mean, I think that's what this kind of gets at is like the bureaucracy is just tries to serve people, right? Well, some bureaucrat scientist figures out, well, the best way to serve people is to sort of put them into categories. They put them into categories and they reduce them to basically numbers on a grid, and that's how they serve them. And it just takes away like the human aspect of like living in a society. And I think that's what Brazil like kind of demonstrates, is like that entire world. You would never want to live in that type of world that was created in Brazil.
Yeah,
like it was awful. I mean, it was
exactly.
just completely done by numbers and bureaucrats.
Yeah, and it's funny because like that's ultimately like when you meet like a communist, like, so I know you know a couple communists, but like I still haven't met one in the wild. Like
we all know some communists.
The thing is, I've only seen them on the internet, and they all have more money than me, oddly enough. But the neither here nor there. I'm sure that's nothing. Yeah, inherited like certain houses that they would then but that would go against the estate tax that they would lobby for. Seriously, no.
Or their landlords.
Doesn't matter.
Want to be landlords. Yeah.
Doesn't
why do I have to be a landlord?
Doesn't matter. Mao would understand that my thing that I inherited is actually based. But the anyways, I like that's the kind of even if they have these like, you know, because it's real communism hasn't been tried. It's a meme, blah blah blah. But like when you see communism, it's like no, it's just going to look like this. It's just going to look like this. It's going to be gray, boring. There's going to be overinflated place with there's going to be no reward for competence. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it. Like, I don't really love when people are out in the street starving and stuff like that. I don't love that. However, you know, like you have to have an incentive for people to be good at their job, because anybody that's lying, anybody that wants to blame, you know, capitalism for the reason why, like, you know, you can't get a paper menu at a place now because of a QR code. And then when I go to a beer place, right, I go up to the bar and they go, actually, can I have that beer? Can I have this beer? And they're like, can you go to the table and scan the QR code? It's easier if you do it that way. I'm like, no, it was actually easier when you pour the beer that I asked for. That was actually easier. And then like, but that's that concept where it's like, that's the communism we're going to get, is just going to be like the guy that the jobs that are created is the guy to generate the code for the QR code. And then the server, the lady that shows the boomers how to use the QR code, then she's got a job. And then all of a sudden the business fails because, you know, it's just, that's going to be the type of communism that we get. Like people will always say like AOC, that's not communism. You know what I mean? That's not communism, but it's like, okay, but that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't even want the thing that they want. However, the thing that's going to happen is going to be the AOC, like Green New Deal communism. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. It's going to be the compromise communism. It's never going to be their ideal communism. And that's how it's always been. It's how it's been for like many communist regimes that have been around throughout the ages. Like just look at Mao, look at Stalin, look at Lenin, look at Castro.
Yeah, I agree. It's all that. And it's like, it's just going to be this thing where it's like, I like, you know, I understand that like I can reach for this product here. However, I need to go through 4 different avenues to make sure everybody has a job. Right. But then that everybody having a job makes my simple job much harder. Right. That's like, it just becomes a headache. And then you end up getting mad at your coworkers, right, or the people involved there, and you end up hating that person. But then you get the backlash of hating, you know, workers, and there's no solidarity and all that stuff. And it's like, no, this shit just sucks. That's all it is. This shit just sucks. And like COVID, dude, like when COVID hit, that's exactly like that. Just, I mean, you want to talk about the biggest bureaucratic nightmare in the world. I mean, that I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know that we will ever see another one. I mean, like even 9/11, which I would say is the similar thing, but even that was like way. I don't know that we've ever. The COVID stuff hasn't gone away. Like I went to an old school Mexican restaurant in this small town. And it was the first time somebody just handed me a paper menu where I didn't have to lie about my phone dying. you know, to not be able to scan a QR code. They just handed it to me, and it was amazing. I was floating with the angel wings in Brazil. That's what was happening. It was that's what's gonna happen. That's where we're at. And guess what? Like, what is the virus now? I don't even know that many people that think the virus is strong anymore. Like, I don't know that many people that are actually like scared of the actual virus. But no, the protocol stayed in place because we can't just pull the rug out. We can't just pull the rug out. What are we going to do with all these people that we sent to college for no fucking reason? Like, and now there's these big job markets that open up for things that actively hurt us, in my opinion. Now these things have opened up. We can't do it, guys. We can't do it. And that's how you end up like Brazil.
Yeah, no. And you also end up with a society that like doesn't really value working in places anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of people who have just moved to stay-at-home jobs. And I know a few of them, it's like been a blessing because they have kids and they can stay home with their kids. I get that. And like, that part, I guess, is really good. But there's something about people just complicitly like, oh, I don't want to socialize with anyone anymore. I only want to search for jobs that are stay at home, or like dropping out of the workforce because like, oh, there's no stay at home jobs available. Like, it's that part is a little wild because like I know in my industry, it's like we look for people all the time and there's just like not the applications. Like,
yeah,
I think a lot of people are dropping out of the workforce, and it's just because like, well, government can provide for a lot of it. I mean, there is like a lot of welfare out there.
Yeah, well, it's like, you know, and then it's the whole, exactly, you get used to a certain thing and then just simply going into your job every day, which, look, I complain about my job all the time. I'm the last person to say it, but the simple act of going into the job is not the obstacle here. Like, you know, it's not the issue for me, but it is for so many people. But yeah, if you were waking up 5 minutes before your shift starting, rolling out onto the couch, logging in, and then realizing you didn't have anything to actually do until 8:45 in the morning, so you could play some FIFA, you know what I mean? Maybe quote tweet a journalist on Twitter or something like that. maybe do something pretty based like that. While you're waiting for your libtard factory Zoom meeting to get rolling. Like that's my thing. Like, it's like there are these little rewards. You're the Michael Palin character at that point. I'm sorry, I don't blame you for all of this, but you're a cog. Like, it's just look, if you give people the option to be lazy, most people are going to pick the job that's lazy. It's just what's going to happen. But if I want society to run well, can everybody do that? We're trying it right now. I don't know the answer. That's the thing is, I actually don't know the answer. I thought I did. I don't know the answer. I kind of think this is kind of sustainable. Just for the fact that it's still going. I mean, I say sustainable meaning my lifetime. I don't think it is over hundreds of years, but I think that there's going to be a day of reckoning for a lot of that. But I'm like, is it happening in my lifetime? Because we just keep getting more remote and more Bluetooth, more, you know, QR code, more just all of these things that require just constant coding and things like that can be done at home. And then on the flip side, if that's happening, right? Let's say this, if remote work is a thing, right? And you go fully remote, why are the cities so dense still? And why is my rent not going down, right? If there's automation at McDonald's, why is that so expensive still? You know, like, why didn't the price cut come in that we were guaranteed, or price stability? Like, there's all these crazy things. Like, these rewards aren't even happening in that sense. Like, that's the real dystopian part about it, is that all the people who warned you of these certain things, like, they're kind of just still staying the same. Like, if somebody can move away and go to Texas and do their job remotely, like, why isn't my rent stabilizing? You know what I mean? Like, here, it sucks.
I mean, I don't know. Is the answer more like localized government?
I think so, but I don't know how you go back. I don't know how you go back. That's what I want. If you let me pull the rug out, which I'm down. Let's pull the rug out. Like, I'm down. I'm kind of one of those guys. At this point, it's tough. Like, look, people, well, so and so.
No, it's like
it's too much.
I've read a lot about like the New Hampshire Free State Project and a lot of stuff like that. It seems like worthwhile and but also very idealistic, and I just don't know how much of that is going to come true. So it's sort of like it depends on like small groups of people like doing shit for themselves and having everything be more like locally dependent.
And I'm sorry, like I don't know exactly. I can kind of get an idea of what the New Hampshire Free State Project is out of just the name that you said, but like then you hear people talking about national divorce, like a lot of extreme stuff like that, where it's like, what if all, like Patrick Star meme, like what if we took all the base people and put them on this side of the country and then the stupid people on the other side of the country, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And in my head I'm like, okay, even if I thought that was feasible or good, I still know that you're working from home right now and you have all this free time to think about it, so you're participating in that insane part of all this, to where I'm like, when it comes time to do that, are you going to do it? Like, I don't know. Because in a vacuum, it's like, I'm home with my kids. I don't have a commute anymore. I'm doing it. Yeah. Because that's how you get the crazy, authoritarianist stuff, is when you throw people a few bones, like a few things like that, where they cannot go back. They will guard that as though like Charlton Heston, cold dead hands type level stuff.
Yeah.
When you try to tell people that working from home is bad, like you get the kind of Michael Jackson Thriller eyes, like where it's like, wait, what? Like, or the Body Snatchers kind of thing. Like it's really, it's like, when it comes time to that, would you do it? No. So that's why I give up a little bit. Cause I'm like, I don't even think some of these people that float these like insanely crazy ideas, to where I am down for a little bit of an accelerationist stuff at this point. Cause I see no other way, to be honest. I don't think it's going to come election after election after election to where we get what we want. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't think the accelerationist people that like I'm agreeing with a lot of times, I don't know that they actually agree. No. That's why to me, it's just like, I don't want to argue about how bad the bureaucracy is from the people that benefit from it. That's all it is. That's all it is. I don't even know that I directly, I don't know that I do suffer from it, because in a sense, but like at the end of the day, I know that this isn't right. Like I know that this isn't right, and we need to move on from something else. So anywho, everybody needs to go check out Brazil if you haven't already. Don't get freaked out by the first scene. It's not a fantasy movie. There is definitely some of those elements when he's fighting the giant Chinese warrior monster. I thought that was pretty funny too, like in a lot of that. But but I have one last question for you. We talked about this off of recording, but let's. I want to hear about the Sphere in Las Vegas, and why you don't like it, because you're the only person that doesn't like it.
Okay, well, I don't know who you've talked to that likes it, but personally, I don't know. It just really throws the whole symmetry of the strip off. I don't know. Like, it's just, there's a lot of nice buildings there, and they're tearing down the Mirage, and it's going to be the Hard Rock, and it'll be a nice like guitar-shaped building, and they have this orb that just changes color in the middle of the strip, and I don't know. I'm not really used to it yet. So I don't know, maybe in a year or so my view will change, but right now it seems to really throw everything off, and I don't know. I'm not a fan. Yeah. It brings kind of an evil energy a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there is a part of, I hear this just because I'm a Coast to Coast head listener, of course. Like I love Coast to Coast, but that's a Pahrump, Nevada, not too terribly far from Vegas. It's not.
That's where we set out for fireworks.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like that type of. It sounds like that that type of place. But right, it's like it's like your Modesto. You know what I mean? Of in California, it seems like. But you have the Vegas has always been said by a lot of like, ancient civilization truther people that I like. It tends to be because there's a lot of like Egyptian stuff that calls back to like ancient Egypt there, that the reason that there's a lot of paranormal things that happen out in the desert in that area is maybe because some of the buildings are constructed in a sense to attract that information, even on the strip itself, to attract that kind of attention from the paranormal. Have you seen anything? Or like, have you known anybody that's seen anything out there that's crazy?
I wish. I have not. I haven't seen anything. I don't know anyone who's seen anything. No.
Yeah.
I want to though. I really want to. I've been looking, but
Okay.
no.
Because there is now what I think is what they're doing now is I think that with these type of weird sphere things that like optical illusion that look like it's like rippling and can be seen from however far away, even from space if that was possible. But all these things, like I think they're trying to replicate that energy because the more you industrialize, you scare that actual stuff away. So I think it's like, oh, actually, we're just going to like simulate that effect of like a sphere bobbling around because it's like that's like an alien and crazy thing. But when back in the day, like it would Vegas has always been, since the 30s really has always been kind of that industrialized lights, city of lights and gambling, all that and all that. But like you always heard about like it just when you go beyond the desert, I had always heard about like just certain weird things that you would see in the desert and stuff. And maybe it was kind of a hotbed for like paranormal activity. But now it's like, no, there's so many lights everywhere. We have football stadiums. We have, possibly a baseball stadium. We have all this stuff. It's becoming like this proper city along with the entertainment thing. Like maybe we'll just simulate that effect because we're scaring all that shit away now. Like
it could be that.
I tend to think, and maybe that's nobody's design. Maybe that's nobody's design, but I wonder if that's the effect. That's all. I mean, yeah.
That could be the effect. I don't know. I think we recently switched our baseball team from it was the 51s,
the Aviators,
like area
now, right?
51s, to the Aviators, and I mean, I don't know. That could have something to do with them trying to hide the truth, right? I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on out here that I'm pretty sure is done for like entertainment. Some that's done for military, and some that, well, it's probably fucking aliens.
There's got it's a weird I prefer to view Vegas as that, because you have the cosmic energy that is gambling, that is predicting the future, and all that stuff tends to happen in Vegas, right?
That is true.
I do love just the idea that people go there and they feel lucky, they feel a certain way, they feel depressed, they want to kill themselves, like there's all these extremes that happen there, and I just love the idea that there is like a weird paranormal force. I just choose to believe it. I'm just a serial believer. I'm a believer of the weirdest thing.
Oh yeah, there is an energy here. There is like a certain energy, and like you kind of even get outside of Vegas, like Mount Charleston, like it's even the nature here. It does have a certain energy. So I do understand all the UFO theories.
Yeah, I just
out here, and I'm totally open to them. Totally open.
Look, guys, if and first off, like you're looking for them. And maybe the minute you stop looking for them, they're going to happen. By the way, maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe there's a reversal, but you never know. We can bend spoons with our minds, as we said last episode. So maybe you could manifest it as well. But be careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for. Anyways, I find Vegas fascinating. My football team plays there. They could use some paranormal luck on their side. Would be wonderful if Garoppolo's ankle healed through manifestation, or maybe I could negatively manifest a Mahomes injury. I don't know. I would never say something like that, but something to think about. But anyways, let everybody know where they can find you if you even want people to find you.
Just organize me on Twitter. It's at Bazillion Plus. And on Instagram. I don't know. That's it. You don't have to follow me.
That's it. No, and that's good. Yeah, that's good. You can hear him on this episode. You can hear him on Drunk on Movies with Cisco and
you should check that out. Yeah, Drunk on Movies.
That's great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
everybody check them out.
Yeah, they're awesome.
All right, man. Well, on that note, everybody have a safe week. We'll catch you guys next time.